Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron?
What's up?
Mr. Kahai, the legend, Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai?
What's up?
What up, gang? How's it going? Happy Monday. How's your weekend? Kahai, what'd you do?
I had family over, so we just hung out and we ended up playing music. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. What did you jam? Ukulele, guitar, piano, bass?
Yeah.
What'd you play?
Ukulele and guitar mostly, but
Nice.
just
Like,
easy.
yeah, because your dad jams a lot, yeah. And like he used to be like the shave ice guy on Kauai, and like a lot of people like would go get shave ice, just sit down and listen to your dad jam. Yeah, that's like a thing. And like if people weren't aware, that's like a thing. Like Uncle Aaron, your dad, like he was the what was his shave ice place called?
Hawaiian Blizzard.
Blizzard. Yeah, it used to be parked right outside of Big Save here in Kapa'a. And I remember like he has just like a beat up ukulele like that he plays whenever there's like no customers like actively wanting shave ice and stuff. And he would just jam. Or if he knew that you played music, it's like, oh, play us some songs.
Yeah.
He was like that guy. It was pretty awesome. So would have loved to jam with him. That sounds good, Like how's your dad doing?
Yeah, he's doing good. He doesn't do shave ice down at the store anymore, so he doesn't have his stand. But he still sells syrup and still does stuff. But yeah, that's one of the things he doesn't do really is like jam. He doesn't have the opportunity to like just sit down in front of his stand and be like, anybody want to come and play music?
Yeah.
Right, you live in his house, right? You should just jam with him more often, guy. How come you don't jam with him more often?
It's okay. It's all
Let's get into that.
I think there's a picture.
Of us jamming.
Of us on the website, right? Hawaiian Blizzard.
I think so.
Maybe. Yeah.
And
It was
then-
like when Russ was there, right?
I think it was me, you, and Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
and I think that was before we even hired Kahai.
Oh yeah. Was Kahai like
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if his website is up anymore. No.
Yeah, I don't think he really
because Kai, you used
Yeah.
to serve shave ice there, right? That was like your old thing.
I mean, yeah, before you guys hired me, like I was like working there for maybe like a month or two or something. But
Yeah.
not really, or not intentionally. It's just like had nothing else to do.
Yeah,
so
help
I
your
was
dad
like,
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Kahai would bring his cajon and sit on his cajon and play cajon.
It was my dad's going, but we used that as a chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I miss that place because I feel like Hawaiian Blizzard was one of the last like traditional like shave ice places on Kauai, because like
Definitely.
everything's super fancy now, with like with fancy like we juiced this morning from like this
or like
whatever.
we have like real fruit pieces
it's
and
just
like
dude,
ice cream and stuff.
Give me that syrup, yo.
What is like the Asian kind of style is like coming over more, where it's like the ice has its flavoring in it itself.
That's
and
true.
Then they're shaving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fluffy and not
So
that
it's
it wasn't
different,
fluffy.
yeah.
It's just
or they would add the cream into the block.
Into the block.
Yeah.
So, I missed that. Is there anyone that does like traditional shave ice still?
Well, like if you go to, because like
Waimea?
this or the
JoJo's? No?
no, not. Well, I don't know. I think they still have other options that you can put in. It's not like the just traditional.
Yeah.
But like if you go to some of like the events on Kauai, there are just people who do shave ice.
Yeah.
And a lot of them use Kahai's dad's syrup. Yeah. Last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, there was the Heva in Kapa'a.
Yeah.
The
Polynesian festival.
it's like Tahitian festival. And there was a booth that was set up there that had shave ice, and it was definitely Kahai's dad's syrup that they were using.
Nice.
Yeah, and even all those places that even if they put other stuff in, they usually get their syrup from my
base.
dad or like machines and stuff too. So.
But I know that they were doing it just either. Yeah, you could just get the syrup and snow cap, and that was the only option. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. We need more traditional, stuff. Like, your dad doesn't do it anymore. Like, we were just recently talking about the malasada lady at like Kmart.
Although malasadas are making a resurgence on
yeah?
Kauai.
Oh yeah. Where?
Yeah. There's a new place in Hanapepe, kind of close to the one lane bridge.
Okay.
They're doing like old school local, like just musubis and malasadas
nice,
and like
nice,
stuff
nice.
that we kind of grew up on.
Okay. I might check that out.
And then there's also another, I forget what they're called.
I heard
malasada place.
I heard the bakery next to Pono Market was doing malasadas too, and I heard that was pretty good. Like my mom, like somebody brought to school.
Oh, okay.
But then-
The Pono,
It's Pono Bakery. Yeah, Pono Bakery.
Yeah, and Island Country Market, they did like ube malasadas too, and my sister got that. That was pretty good. Yeah.
They sometimes have malasadas over at the old Aras. What is that? Konohiki? Like they sometimes have stuff over there also. Yeah, and then Paradise Grinds, they sometimes have poi malasadas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's because I feel bad because Gary was just here and he was asking about malasadas.
Like, dude, you have Leonard's. Oh no, that was Damien.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you have Leonard's over there.
But no, there's another one that they're just doing pop-ups, I think. And just because I saw that Ha Coffee was partnering with them, doing malasadas on certain days. I think like Wadasadas or something.
Wadasadas,
I forget.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you gotta go look it up. But yeah.
All right. If you guys didn't know, this was an ukulele
totally
podcast. Totally not a food and lifestyle podcast. This is an ukulele podcast. What we do here is because we are live. There's a live podcast going on right now. We have viewers, right? All three of them, right? Kahai, they're here. Yeah. Because we are live, you can ask us questions and we try to answer them as best as we can. Kahai will ask me a question because he will relay whatever you guys' question is. I'll try to answer it as best as I can, give you my 2 cents. The other guys will give their 2 cents and we'll come up with the best 6-cent answer just for you. And if not, we just have a discussion, ukulele or whatever. We try to make it as ukulele related as possible. And the question you guys can ask is anything, but please, if you can, try to keep it ukulele related, right, Kai?
I guess, or we also do answer in 5, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So if you want one of those types of question or answers, make sure to put the hashtag answer in 5 in the chat or in the comment, and then those questions, go for it. Anything. Right? Not
so,
necessary.
Gentlemen, Kahai, specifically, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we have a question from our very own Tim.
Ooh, Tim.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's wow.
Yeah, that's why I had to make a special page. Just
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Boom. Okay, read it to me, bud.
I have to make this bigger. So he says, Aldrine, you have spoken about Pure Heart, Kyle Creator Boys, and the Hot Hawaiian Nights TV show, as well as your roots in the worship music ministry as part of your superhero origin story. However, you've only spoken briefly about your parents' taste for late 60s, 70s vintage soft rock as part of your superhero origins. Probably most of us have our parents' record collections in our heads somewhere, but yours has clearly found its way into your repertoire and the UU song library. And he lists James Taylor, Jim Croce, John Denver, late Beatles, and Come and Get Your Love, Redbone, and more. Dancing in the Moonlight, I guess. So he said, so this old man and your biggest fan would love to know about these deep corners of your origin lore. Keep on rocking softly.
Tim wants more lore. He wants lore piece, guy.
And I was thinking, like, maybe you could talk about this, but then maybe also we could get your I don't know, top 3, top 5, like songs from this kind of genre or era.
That era. Yeah. Okay. Being from the, I'll say this much, and this will add to the lore. Being from like the Philippines, okay, like I grew up there till I was 8 years old. I was born in '84 in Manila. And being born there, and I always joke that, like, being born in '84, it's like I'm still technically a millennial by age, but because the Philippines is like 10 years late, like we get everything 10 years late. I remember, when did Back to the Future come out? Do you know, Kahai?
I want to say, wasn't it like 85?
It was 80 something, right?
Yeah.
So I specifically remember I was maybe 5-6 years old, and I remember those commercials because like in the Philippines when I was growing up, there's really only 2 channels. There's Channel 2 and Channel 7, and then like it was a big deal when we got Channel 5. It was like everyone was talking about like, oh my God, Channel 5 is coming. I don't even know what they're gonna show on Channel 5, but we have a 3rd channel we can finally watch, And So ABS-CBN, which is like Channel 2, I think they procured the rights to show Back to the Future. And this, mind you, this was like 1990 or like 1991, you know? So if Back to the Future was like in the 80s, it didn't come to the Philippines till like 80, you know, or 90, like late 80, maybe 89, 90. Like,
so maybe earliest like 5 years.
Yeah,
5 years. To
I was, I was conscious. I was conscious of all the ads that were being played on TV, because I remember like it played like on a Friday. And there was like a countdown. They're like, oh, like 4 more days of sleep and it's Back to the Future, and like 3 more days of sleep and it's Back to the Future, you know? So we would always get things late. So I've always identified, like as Gen X in that way of like the songs that I grew up with were songs that were popular in the Philippines, like from the mainland. Like we had all the latest Philippine stuff, but that's a given, right? But all the music that went, from overseas are from like half a decade before then to a decade. So in my early years of like mid 80s, it was like a lot of 70s stuff. And just like here in Hawaii, like they're still playing like Drop Baby Drop on the radio, which was like in the 90s, So if something sticks like in the radio waves, in the airwaves in the radio, they're gonna keep playing that stuff. So a lot of the times, the people who controlled the radio stations, like in my household and my auntie guys' household, were like my aunts, uncles, like my grandparents, my parents, who they were born in like the 50s and 60s and stuff. So for them, their music of like the 70s and late 60s were like a predominant in all the households that I used to frequent. Okay, so that's how I kind of grew up with that kind of music, being surrounded by that kind of music. And even like Filipino music, they would like the 70s, 60s, 50s, like Filipino music that they would play. Some of them are like Ray Valera. We had a Ray Valera song that we did, which is a 70s tune. I grew up listening to like comedy acts like Tito Vic and Joey, like who, I'm now looking for like the records, like old records like on eBay,
which are ridiculously priced,
like almost $200 per record, and it's like, why are you charging these prices, But then they're the only like sellers. So I guess I'm gonna suck it up and buy these. But that's kind of what I grew up with, and because there were the people who held, and I wasn't really like allowed to, or nor did I have a chance to like control the radio. So that's what I grew up listening, and not that I didn't like it, So yeah, Ray Valera. We had TVJ. We my grandma was a big Yo-Yo Revillame like fan, and just those kind of like old school like Filipino like artists. And then my dad, being like their son, who's like more up to date as far as like music goes. My dad would listen to stuff that he grew up with in the 70s and 60s, and that's why I was introduced to people like the Beatles, and all the James Taylor, like Jim Croce, like all these people that that you now hear are just like people that I grew up listening to. My mom was a big fan of Lobo. That's another one that I haven't really gotten into as far as the UU stuff goes. But if I'm at home, if I'm gonna put on a record, it's gonna be either Jim Croce, Lobo, or Best of Bread. And Bread is another one. Bread I've done on my Ukulele Oversoul channel. But those are like the ones that I grew up with. And my writing and my playing style kind of reflects on those kinds of eras. So if you listen to even just like my latest album, Robot Love Songs, they were kind of, a lot of them are like 70s, like late 60s inspired singer-songwriter kind of stuff. A lot of Lobo, a lot of a lot of Bread, like rhythm wise, like chords, like a lot of major sevenths and stuff are on there. If you listen to something like like Silk Sonic, that what was the first one that they did? The
Leave the
Leave the
Door
Door Open. You know, like when you listen to those chords that's in there, that's the kind of chords that I'm talking about. I used to like hear those kind of tones, and so whenever we play, one of the first like kind of major 70 like sounding songs that I started doing was like Waiting in Vain, because Waiting in Vain is usually just that a lot of people played it like, and then, you know, I don't want no wait in vain for your love. Okay, and then the Call Critter Boys is there. Okay, so in college I heard like Bossa and Marley. It's like it's a awesome record that like I randomly found on when Borders was still around. So I picked up this record. I'm like, what is Bossa and Marley? And it's exactly what you think it is. It's Bossa Nova, Bob Marley. And I was just like, this is amazing. So I was like, okay, well, if they can just do that to like Bob Marley songs, why can't we kind of do the same? So when me and Ryan started playing music together, I put forward that idea of playing, like Waiting in Vain in that kind of, we called it lounge music. That. Mm-hmm. I don't want to wait in vain for your love. But that same kind of major 7 and swing of like a, hey, have you ever tried? From Bread, mm-hmm. Really reaching out for the other side. Song called I'd Like to Make It With You. Listen to that. It's like that same kind of groove that we did for Waiting in Vain. And because I kind of wanted to bring what, the music that I grew up with, because you should play stuff that you like, right? Like, and that's what I've always kind of stood tall, like being proud of. Like all the music that I play is stuff that I actually like playing, stuff that I enjoy doing, and things that are part of me as, as my identity as a person, as a musician, and as an artist, I'm not just gonna, and that's why we've never gotten into that groove of like, well, what's popular right now? Like top 10, like popular songs. We're not just gonna go look at like what's on the Billboard, whatever, top this, and then like, okay, well, or look up like, what is it, like Ultimate Guitar, and like, what are people looking up as far as like ukulele songs? What do people want to learn? It's just like, no, like I kind of like this, we'll do this song instead, and it's stuff that I grew up, and that's why Ukulele Underground, and a lot of our audience, like especially in the beginning, was a lot of people like in ukulele clubs, because that's kind of their their music, right? Like their era. And during that time of like early YouTube, I felt like a lot of YouTubers, a lot of singer-songwriters were doing like acoustic covers of stuff, and it fit perfectly, because like a lot of that 70s, 60s stuff, like James Taylor, like Jim Croce and Bread, it fit right there. You got guys like Gabe Bondok, you got guys like Passion, who was like playing these beautiful like chords on the guitar and singing to it with an R&B voice, but like with these like colorful chords on the on the guitar or the piano, and I was inspired by that. I was like, that's it. That's like, I like the direction that this singer-songwriter acoustic musician thing is going. And granted, they were all Filipinos, so maybe it's not like it's not a coincidence. Maybe their parents listened to like the same type of like 70s, late 60s music that my parents did. And yeah, so like that's honestly it. And when I moved to Hawaii in '92, and I've mentioned this before, like driving around in my dad's like Chrysler's Plymouth, we had just tapes of stuff, and because my dad controlled the radio, we would still listen to his his songs. And at that point, he was like in his, I guess, 30s. Or I guess about 30s, mid to late 30s, and And it's not like he would listen to like new music. He would just buy tapes like of music that he grew up with. So like a tape that we had always in the car was Jim Croce. So I liked Jim Croce a lot. I could like sing all the lyrics to the Best of Jim Croce album because that's what played in the car. Like Lobo and Bread. And James Taylor and a lot of that stuff. So those are the ones that I and like Tony Orlando and Don like is another one. Like this past like not this one, but last month's Ukulele Club. I snuck it into the Ukulele Club like song list, knocked 3 times, and that's like I think 60s, like Tony Orlando. And most of the a lot of the Ukulele Club members are older, and when I'm like, let's play Knock 3 times, and they're like, oh, that's like super old, because maybe they're kind of like, let's play something a little bit more modern, not something from our era, But I was like, I love this stuff, and as soon as we started playing it, everyone had a good time, like everyone was knocking 3 times. It was awesome, and yeah, because I feel like music. Was very, was a lot more romantic, was a lot, for me, it clicked a lot better. And it was a great transition because in Filipino music, we focused on like a very romantic style of music. That's what we gravitate towards. Yeah. We have a genre of music in the Philippines where where you would harana, you would like serenade a person or your whoever you're trying to court, and we have a courting culture in the Philippines. You would go to a girl's window and as a guy sing and play the guitar and sing. It's called kundiman. Kundiman is that like romantic genre of music. So it's like built into my DNA to be like attracted to that kind of like romantic, like lovey-dovey like kind of music. And it was like my pleasure to like do something called acoustic robot love songs, because that's ingrained into my DNA to like that type of music. Of course, I still like rock. I was still like a Jimi Hendrix, and like Eric Clapton, like kind of do Eagles and whatever. Michael Learns to Rock, whatever it may be. Like my dad was still into that stuff. He was still like a relatively younger dude in the in the 80s. So
America.
America.
Yeah.
So I knew some stuff like from my dad. Yeah, so that's a lot of that lore. It's just a lot of influences from my parents and from where I grew up.
Yeah, I was telling Tim that it's like even on Kauai, like our biggest radio station, they still play like all those
Kalapana.
Kalapana, but it's like or Ambrosia.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I told him like I'm pretty sure I knew Come and Get Your Love and I knew Redbone before we did the play along.
Yeah.
But it's only when we did the play along that I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that's why they're called Redbone. It's because they're like
a bunch of Native Americans.
Native American, Mexican Americans, and their whole band's made up of that. I was like, oh, duh, yeah. So I told Tim like, oh, I hope you don't like cringe when I tell you this. Like I had no idea. And same with like other bands like Ambrosia. It's like, I don't know what they look like, but I know what they sound like.
Can I name drop right now? David Pack, close personal friend. David Pack from Ambrosia still sounds exactly like how he sounds on the Ambrosia album. And I was lucky enough to be able to play guitar for David Pack. I played electric guitar. I played ukulele. One year I played ukulele. Another year I played electric guitar. It was awesome. Just name drop in there a little bit.
Throw it in.
Close personal friend, David Pack. I saw him at Walmart once. I waved. He didn't see me though, but he lives here on Kauai now.
But I think like on Kauai now, like I'm sure most people in their cars like just put on Spotify. But the radio stations are still like kind of all those oldies.
Yeah,
and
man.
The people who listen to the radio are like listening specifically for those songs.
So I mean, in a way, I have become my father because I don't listen to anything like, and I'm like in my 30s still. Like technically still in my 30s. That like like how my dad was like in in the 90s, like or 80s and 90s. He was in his 30s, but he just refused to listen to anything new and just listen to his era of music, which is the same thing for me. Like music that I grew up listening to, that's what I listen to and I play on my live shows, with the addition of things that I grew up with, like punk and emo and scene kind of music and stuff, and a lot of like pop music that I grew up with in the 90s and 2000s. But past the 2000s, I don't know if I play anything like even 2010s, in my set. Yeah. So it's that, like, I have become like my parents because that's just how they listen to music. Yeah. And I feel like my the maximum storage in my brain is like near its capacity. Yeah. So putting in new music and things to learn is just like, nah, let's just listen to to the Jim Croce's greatest hits one more time. Let's listen to Town in a Bottle one more time instead.
Yeah. I was talking to Rosalie and we were talking about hip hop, and what kind of hurt was like hearing that hip hop from the 90s is considered old school now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
90s is like 30 years ago, dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess so. Come on.
I think talking with like ending a sentence with dude is like that old.
Yeah. You were just talking about Nick at Night too, right?
Yeah, that's right. On Saturday, like, I was like, oh my god. I think, what was it? It was like a it wasn't Family Matters. It was like one of those kind of shows that was playing at Nick at Night, and I'm like, oh my god, that's what they're showing at Nick at Night now, And back in the day, it was like I Love Lucy or like Happy Days and stuff, like 70s kind of things. But yeah, you mentioned that like in the 90s, the 70s being 20 years ago, and now in the 2020s, like it's the 90s are even older than that.
Yeah.
So
2000s is what they should be playing, right?
So
so it's like Friends and
I guess I think maybe it was Friends. Maybe it was Friends.
Yeah, it's gonna be like How I Met Your Mother soon.
Oh, dude.
And it's like, I remember, like, my parents are like, they're like, oh yeah, we love like Gilligan's Island and I Love Lucy and stuff, and it's like telling your kids now, it's like, come watch this classic Friends.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Back in my day.
Yeah, you gotta come watch Friends with me. I remember when this aired and Ross and Rachel were fighting.
But I feel like
the one when they moved the couch up the stairs.
I kind of feel like that's how it is for everybody, right? Because like when you're growing up, you're experiencing like bodily changes and like all of the emotions are there. And so all of your memories are tied to emotions primarily, right? So if you have like either good or bad experiences tied to music, that comes back stronger for you than anything else.
Yeah. And so it was like a family thing. Like, I mean, my family being Filipino, we did like karaoke and, like we played music together. Like and I talked about, my church, roots and stuff. So like my family played guitar, but we didn't just play church music. We played like any kind of music. So a lot of that stuff that might, and in Hurricane Iniki, like we did nothing but play music because that's something that you didn't need like electricity for. So I grew up around that, and it's always been like a great memory for me. Now that like, my grandparents have passed, and my dad has passed, and all his brothers and sisters kind of got their own kind of family now. It's just me longing for those days of like when everyone lived under one roof, and we all like, we all played music together, we prayed together, we broke bread together, that kind of that kind of thing. When I was living in Omao, like that down south, before we moved to Koloa, that was like a gathering place for not just my family, but like all their coworkers and stuff, and everybody would come in. I can still hear like my uncle Leonardo like singing karaoke outside, like doing his best Engelbert Humperdinck, and then or my dad would go in and do his little Bee Gees number. Like it's that, and it's just really tied. I mean, you're right, Aaron. It's tied with like such great memories because now that time's passed and everyone's kind of gone their own ways, like I long for that kind of family time that I used to have, and I have like really strong family bonds and memories from back in the day because it was insane. Like coming from the Philippines where like those bonds are pretty good, and then coming here and like having them be pretty much the same or just as strong because I moved into a already built-in Filipino community here on Kauai. It was really cool. Yeah.
I think that is one, and like Kyle kind of mentioned it, like you ride in your parents' car and you don't have control over the radio, right?
No.
So you just listen to it, and it's like it seems like now since like people just go to like Spotify playlists, and they're like with their kids, they're just like, I will put on the Bluey playlist for you while you were in the car.
Yeah.
Is like
Or kids have control now.
or they have their own
now
thing.
kids do.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and plus I'm kind of a pick me, you know, I'm like the pick me son, and like, and would like, and really just wanted to like, you know, just wanted my parents to be happy or to be proud of me. So like, I always just thought whatever my parents thought were cool was cool. So like, you know, if my parents were listening to, you know, to Air Supply, and like, and the kids at school were like listening to like Kauai Critter Boys or whatever, I'm like, hey, why don't we play this like Air Supply song? And say, I'm all out of love. They're like, what is that? Ew. It's like, what are you talking about? The songs the Kauai Critter Boys are singing are just as old, if not older, you know?
You just don't know it, right?
You just don't know it, yeah. You know? So
Exactly.
like Benny Kid Stand By Me is like what, 60s?
All of them.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, like, cause like for me, growing up with my dad and him playing stuff, I remember it's like he played Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You, Dad, what is this?"
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, disco is actually pretty bomb. It's actually pretty cool.
But I was the opposite. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like my dad's the coolest.
So you didn't have any.
Yeah,
like,
no, I was a
artists
pick
or
me. Like I
anything?
said, I was a pick me. You know what I mean? Like my sister was the one that's like, ew, like why are we listening to this? So I'm like, shush, it's great. You know, it's Jim Croce.
But I think I think that's a part of the thing, right? Is as you get older, you just realize like, man, music and all this stuff is just like a repetition from the previous thing. that came before.
There's no original
Originator.
music. Yeah, like it's just. I mean, you might link up new like words differently than other people have, but like those chord progressions, those notes in that sequence has probably existed before, you know, like it's tough to create like true original music.
Or like even for people who say like, oh yeah, I didn't base this off of anything. Probably if you talk to them though, they'll be like, but I did have like a song or a band in mind when I was writing this, and that alone will like influence what they write too. So yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I was one of those like overachievers, pick me kids that loved their parents and their family. So whatever my family thought was cool, I thought was cool. So
Yeah. Okay. So how about give us like 3 songs from that genre, that era, that time period, and make it like songs that we haven't done on like as like a
nice.
play along or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, Operator by Jim Croce.
Nice.
One of the best like acoustic guitar songs and like love songs or heartbreak songs. Like you feel it in that. Like it's just, I think recently Rick Beato did like a deep dive on that song with someone else, and they're just like really like explaining like the, you know, the chord progressions, the lyrics and stuff, and how like kind of like a nice tragedy, like, oh, but it's hopeful, you know, like in that tune. So one of my favorites of all time, Jim Croce's Operator. Number 2, I'd like to make it with you. By Bread. Basically any Bread song, but that one in particular, I love that. You know, I love that group, that groove that they have. That's kind of 70s, like slow rock, but very kind of loungy at the same time, kind of groove. Love that. That's a big part of who I am as a musician today. So that's gonna give you like a pretty good insight on like the kind of chords that I'm talking about and the kind of rhythms that, you know, that I'm talking about. And last but not least, if we're talking about my Filipino roots, listen to Ray Valera. I know we did one called Maging Sino Ka Man, but there's one called, what is that called? Because it's not like the title isn't obvious. Because kahit tagal din nating di nakita, ko'y nasasabik na sa'yo. What is that called? I forgot what it's called. It's My gosh, I'm blanking out now.
Yeah, I'll pull up some.
It's like because it's not obvious. I don't think it's in the chorus or anything like that. Kumusta ka? It's called Kumusta ka? Like how are you? And that means a lot to me because talking about my father and stuff. Like I was really like he was my hero, you know. Like and that song I remember like and that song's about like how are you, it's about like a long distance relationship and that kind of like umulan bumagyo ayos lang, which is like no matter rain or thunder, like I'm still just fine as long as I know that like that you're fine, or as long as I'm thinking about you and things like that. It's just like that, like my dad would sing it together when we were together, like when I was young, and then when he especially when he moved, because it was like a song about a long distance relationship, and it's not necessarily like a romantic relationship. Like if you look at the lyrics, it is a lot of just like, hey, how are you doing? So to me, it was like my dad's like kind of letters, to me in the Philippines while he lived in Hawaii, and kind of cool because I kept that going with my daughters. Like I sing that song to both my daughters, and they know they don't even know how to speak Filipino, but they know that song, and they can say it. Oh, at least my oldest can, which I'm training my youngest to do so. My oldest can sing that song word for word in Filipino, and she doesn't know what any of it means, but yeah, and it's like such a happy moment for me. I'm that kind of sappy kind of guy. Yeah. So that the kumusta ka, just to kind of get to know my Filipino roots. I feel like Operator is a good one, and I think I'd Like to Make It With You by Bread is good music wise, the chords and rhythm and stuff like that. Yeah, that's my top 3. If I can only choose 3, those. Yeah.
Yes. There was at least 2 votes for Diary by Bread.
Oh, Diary. Yeah, Diary's a good one. Diary's like, I found a diary underneath a tree. That's another so all these, and you're going to see, they're like super sappy, like romantic kind of songs.
Storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling kind of stuff. And I love that, and Diary is just like, hey, I just kind of want to see what she wrote about me. And then in the end, it's like, oh, it's like about some other guy. You're like, oh, that sucks. That hurts, And yeah, that's another good one. But, and I actually wanted to name my oldest, Elle. Her name was almost Aubrey. Because they have a song called Aubrey.
Oh.
Yeah, Aubrey was her name, a not so very ordinary girl or name, but who's to blame? Like love that name because it's that was referenced in a Bread song. Her name was almost Aubrey. and I was like trying to think of what names I could pitch my wife to have some kind of connection with my musical tastes. So she's called Elle. And I mean, lots of reasons, but one of the reasons is because one of my favorite Filipino rock artists is or bands is called Eraserheads, and the main lyricist or the writer of most of their music, his name is Leandre Buendia. So Ellie for short, ELY, and so I call my daughter Ellie, but her name is Elle. Well, I call her Ellie. But it's almost like in my head I'm spelling it ELY and not ELLIE.
I know, with Eraserheads, they kind of kept up that very much writing. Story kind of driven songs, right?
That's why. So if you trace back the roots of the things that I liked from back then, and that's why I like Eraserheads, because that storytelling, very very Filipino based music is that was their that was the heart and soul of that band, which is really, really cool, using Filipino poetry kind of thing.
I think even that song we did, right, Beging Sino Kaman, it's used for what is it, several soap operas, because it's
and movies and stuff.
It's or it was originally made for a movie, I think, right, where it's lead, or was he the
Nice.
lead? Ray
I'm
Valera
impressed
was
by
like
your
the
your
lead actor?
Filipino music knowledge right now, Kai. You're impressing me, bud.
I to write the paragraph underneath the lesson, I gotta look up these songs,
Oh, yeah,
and find
that's
out the
right, that's
history.
right.
So
That's
yeah.
right.
But
But yeah.
yeah, you can tell where it's like their or song or storytelling in songwriting was very important, right? And
Yeah.
I guess like with Eraserheads and even like more modern band, it still kept that kind of tradition.
But yeah, that's my So a lot of ukulele players will probably cite a bunch of different ones. But because I had, a relatively unique like childhood, like moving from like a third world country like to here and being a part of like that strong community of my peers. I think did a lot of number on my musical tastes as a grown up.
Yeah.
And as an artist.
Okay.
Yeah. Next.
Yep. Ready for
Questions. Give me some questions.
Jim said, Aldrine, you usually play tenor. When might you choose to play a different uke, a concert or a baritone? Why would you choose one over the other?
I usually play tenor because it's like an all around, kind of a size as far as ukulele goes because it has, it's a bigger size. It has a bigger sound. So if I need for this to cut through, it can, Also it has like more frets. Back in the day, it was like 12 frets, like to the body, and that was it. Like for sopranos. And then I think concerts had like 16 because it had C, which is 15, and then one more over that. So I didn't have the high D that I would like, so I started playing tenors, and it actually had the high D and high E that I was looking for. So that was another reason why I play tenor. It's just an all around like kind of instrument. But I would switch off to a soprano if the song calls for it. For example, I've said it before in the pod that like if I'm looking to create an album or like write a song or just do a track, the ukulele rhythm track is probably going to be done with sopranos, because soprano I feel like is the best representative for what an ukulele should sound like. When you think ukulele, when you think that the tone of what an ukulele should sound like, or the tone of sound coming from this instrument is exactly that. Not necessarily like a tenor. Like now, I guess people's ears are used to hearing a tenor doing rhythm and stuff. But if you hit them with a rhythm that's like that's done with sopranos, it's like unmistakably like, oh yeah, that's an ukulele.
It can't be mistaken for like a classical guitar or anything.
Yeah, and and I play a concert if I'm trying to go for that sound, but I need the extra frets. Okay, so like that's when I would use a concert ukulele. Like for example, if I already laid down the foundation using soprano ukuleles, if I lay down that rhythm, and then it needs like some kind of solo, but the solo, I still want it to sound like kind of old-timey ukulele or like that traditional
or innocent
sound. Innocent kind of sound. It's that. Because I feel like the tenor sounds too close to like a classical guitar or a flamenco guitar. So if you're looking to do that kind of solo, that's when you would use a tenor. So a lot of the times in a lot of my albums, you actually rarely hear like the tenor ukulele being used. It's a lot of sopranos and concert ukuleles that I would use for my albums. Fun fact. All right, next. And also, Jim, please explain ray gun to us. Explain ray gun. What does Australia have to say about ray gun? That's all. From the big games. I don't want to say the old word. From the big games. Okay.
Yeah,
breakdancing phenom. Ray gun.
I was gonna say, let's just leave it at that. And it's like, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I'm not gonna say anything. You know what I mean? I don't want to make any controversial comments or whatever. But please, you and I'm sure there's a bunch of Australians, right? Like in our audience. Please give us an explanation on this ray gun situation. What happened? That's all. Now, next question, Kahai. Let's let the Australians defend themselves.
This isn't really a question, but I'm guessing they're kind of asking for help maybe on this. So they said, Aldrine, after focusing, or this is from As Normal.
Yeah.
Aldrine said, after focusing on strumming, I found the rhythms were a challenge, especially if the lyrics and chords were not synced. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit on the tough side, but I would focus on like creating a groove. So if you're focusing on strumming, a lot of the time, I mean, if you find that the rhythms are not synced with what you're doing, it's probably, you might probably be thinking about like the specifics of the strum pattern. So you're probably thinking ups, downs, chunks, and all that stuff, which we used to do. But if you just set a groove with your right hand, then it might not sync, but it should groove with the rhythm that you're trying to do. Okay? So focus on creating the groove, and focus on making a groove that you can and I've said this like in some of like the beginner like strumming singing like lessons that we've done, is to create that groove and then maybe do the chord changes and just talk, while those are happening. So like just or more better just to tie it all together. That's my Waiting in Vain groove. And just talk, and then try to see if you can keep that groove up. Focus on this groove and just kind of explain. Even if you're just explaining what you're doing, just talk, say something like, I'm going on the G major and I'm about to change into this A minor right now. Okay, back to the G major 7, and then go into the A minor, back to G major 7 again. Maybe I'll hit this D. So see, if you can get that groove and lock the groove down, then the lyrics should kind of be flowy with the groove. So even if it doesn't sync, because you don't want to be like, I don't want to wait in vain for your love. Music is not that way. Where you strum what you sing. It should be like this. This is the first layer. You're laying down layers. Yeah. The rhythm is that first layer. The chords to that rhythm is another layer. And the lyrics and the melody and the words that you're singing on top of that is another layer. And based on that, it shouldn't be the same, the same layer or the same rhythm, same everything. Or else that's what music would sound like, if we would just be playing, I don't want to wait in vain for your love. It just doesn't flow. You know what I mean? So get used to the flow of the groove. Get that down. Try to see if you can you can say things to it and not necessarily in sync. Don't think about syncing things. So get your mind off of the syncing, but more so flow with or groove with. Try to lock into the groove of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think, and most people, when they kind of say that they have a hard time singing and playing, it's usually because they, you really want to have, I'm not a singer either, but you want to have, the lyrics either all memorized.
Oh, please, don't do this, guy. Don't do this. You're a singer. Don't do this.
Okay, wait. Guys... Aldrine's mic is turned off right now. Okay, so you want to usually have the lyrics memorized, or you want to have your I hate to call it strumming, but you want to have the groove where you're not thinking about it either, right?
Yeah.
And the more you can have either both, one or the other, or both, hopefully, nailed down where you're not thinking about it, is the less kind of mental space you're taking up.
Yeah.
You can either use it for recalling, okay, what is the next, I'm singing, I'm playing, what is the next lyric coming up? Or if you need it to be hearing what everybody else is playing and being am I gonna take a solo, or are we gonna change chords? Or you can react.
It's where does it fit in that? Yeah.
So you want it down where it's you're not thinking about, okay, the next chord coming up is gonna be a G, so I gotta change now. If you're kind of at that point, it's gonna be hard to have that while you're also
Yeah.
thinking of, and I'm also singing this word at this time, right?
Yeah. Or you
Yeah.
could just practice them separately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah,
like-
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, get the
Yeah.
groove like down,
Yeah.
and then if and then try to toss another ball to juggle, like,
Yeah.
which is the
It-
talking.
Or just just get them down
Yeah.
separately, like each one very well separately. Because a lot of times when I'm trying to learn a song, I'll listen to it in the car because then I'm not playing my instrument, right? If I want to memorize the lyrics and memorize like the way that it's presented, like the flow of the lyrics, then I'll just like sing along in the car, just keep repeating the same verse over and over, getting it down line by line until I don't even have to think about it, and then go and learn the chords or figure out like how it would work, and then maybe learn the chords separately, then put them together. But
Yeah. I think that might be like where people kind of trip up, is because they're thinking it looks so easy for other people to do it. It should be something I can just learn all at once, right?
and
especially if this is like your first try at singing and playing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like you really should break it down. And the people who you see who you think, oh, it's so easy for them, they probably did the same thing too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess the more songs that you have under your belt, like the more references you have to similar types of things, then it does become easier. But like in the beginning, you just gotta grind through a bunch of
because you'll start to have like a bunch of grooves like down, you know what I mean?
And
like,
then you can do the syncopation with the lyrics
Even
and the
like-
strumming because you have like another reference point, like another song does that too, and it's like similar.
Yeah, because it's just like, even with singing, right? The like singing has a groove in it of itself, and just kind of you recognize that it's like, oh, over vowels, that's probably when there's gonna be like a switch, or like you're holding something, so that's the right time to like lift up on the strings.
But even that, you're not thinking actively about that, right? It's
just 'cause, like, you have
by
so-
intuition at that point.
You have so much reference from other things that you already know. That it's like, it just comes easy.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about with magic. It's like, it's magic because normal people can't imagine that you put that much effort into it, right?
a single move.
Yeah, like a single move, like a magician will practice it thousands and thousands of times for a very specific purpose to fool you.
To get that
And
one
so like the
down.
normal person can't even imagine that somebody would spend that much time to do something like that in order to fool them, that it doesn't even occur to them. So it's the same thing, right? When you watch a musician doing his thing, and it's like, oh man, they must just be born with it, right?
I spent 10,000 hours practicing just to hide a coin in my hand, make it seem like I don't have a coin in my hand. And the same thing is like, I spent 10,000 hours just holding one chord. Like, the amount of time I've spent holding this one chord is unbelievable. So the fact that I can switch to it whenever I want, of course I can.
Or switch to it on an up strum, or like in between strums.
Or I'm not thinking about switching to it at all.
And
like,
singing at the same time.
It's second nature.
Yeah.
Okay, next question, Kahai.
Okay, let's go back to you saying, asking Jim.
Okay.
And Jim said,
this Australia is defending themselves now. Here we go.
No, not really.
Okay.
some things defy explanation, but if Taylor Swift loves it, that's all Aussie.
Taylor Swift does not speak for all of us. I would say most of us. Yeah.
Hey.
And he also added, but if you missed it, there is no return at next Olympics.
That's because it was, that was France's choice. So like, I was talking to Aaron about that this past Saturday, where like, I guess, don't say the O word. I don't want to get this thing taken down. And like, France got to pick their 5 events that they wanted to hold, like unique events at their Olympics. And then LA, the big games are going to be in LA.
In
See, I
2028.
said it. I guess you can't. It's tough to not to say the O word. But in 2028, the big games are going to be in LA. So and we're picking like 5. So And it is sadder in that way where like it finally got a feature, you know, like because it wasn't gonna be in 2020 regardless of the showing like of this year, even if it was super successful and stuff. Like LA already figured out what they wanted to do for you know for their big games, right? So even more so, they had one opportunity, like one shot, you know, to make like breaking legitimate and you know and then she just went all in for herself is what she did, you know, like. And it's I don't want to get into it because it's a lot of like it's weird because it's almost cultural appropriation. Oh, I said it and it's tough because like I growing up like in a third world country, I used to dance. I used to break dance. I used to be like a street dancer as well. That was my thing, you know. So the stuff that she was doing, and I kind of know like a lot of those moves, poses, and head spins, turtle spins, all that kind of stuff. Like I used to do back in the day. Okay, it's tough to understand that culture. And she's saying, and she's got like this PhD, she's got all this stuff that like, you know, but that's kind of the opposite of like what the actual culture is, right? Like, and it's just, I don't know. I don't want to say too much because it really is almost personal. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So just, what was that? That's all. You know, what was I'm more interested in like the selecting like process of like how did she manage to get on that stage and why?
Yeah.
Actually, so, yeah. I don't actually care about that, but I do have an opinion about the DJ for the entire breaking.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It takes two to
yeah, talking about that, right? Like, who put together the song selection? Because if we're talking about like just sticking to the songs that we grew up with, like, who was that? Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They yeah.
You know, they said that like because there's different organizations behind each sport, right? That's represented at the big O.
Yeah. The big games.
And they said that this organization for breaking is actually like a ballet centric organization, and I kind of it's like I'm glad they did it. I'm glad it's out there and that people were able to compete and represent their country. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That, you know, these dancers were able to do that. But then at the same time, it did kind of feel like they're like, hey, young kids, we're still hip. We're still hot, right? Check out this breaking.
Oh,
and it's like, do kids... I feel like that breaking even is like something from our generation is like, are kids now into breaking?
And I think she just like, because I was like, okay, I gotta hear like what she has to say. And like the more things that she says, the more it's just like, oh my God, you don't, you know? He's like, well, I did the Olympics and you didn't. It's like, oh, that's like the wrong attitude to have, man.
No,
like,
I don't know. I'm totally down with that. Like, I would like to know what is the easiest sport to become like an Olympian. And I want to just do that. Yeah. Like, I'm sure there are, like, right? You can probably hack your way into the Olympics.
She did like the Homer Simpson move almost, you know, like where he's on the floor and he was just like kind of. I know she didn't do that. I know she didn't do that, but I felt like that was you know, the inspiration for a lot of those moves that she was doing.
We were talking about it, right, where it feels like the Bob's Burgers episode, and then the lady's like,
"That's not hip hop.
This is hip hop.
That
hip-hop, right? It's like
down to like the poses that she was doing, you know, like it was so like
Yeah.
CA.
Yeah. See, Chris said that the gold medalists for the male and the female were pretty good though. But that was in spite of the DJ. I feel
Aaron's really got strong opinions with the
somehow, DJ. Like I love me some like CNC Music Factory, but but this is 2024, you know.
Oh man, was that Phil Wizard like from Canada? So good. That was, and like Did you see that one round where like he went up against a guy from Japan and he predicted what he was gonna end like the move with? Like he did this pose, like the Japanese guy was like doing his routine, you know, and he was gonna do this pose at the end, and Phil Wizard did the same pose at the same time as if like, I bet you're gonna do this, or like, oh snap, that's b-boy culture, baby.
Yeah, I actually like the format.
And like the 9 judges, it was good. That's why it's just kind of like, oh man. So, and it gets a little bit more personal because like, so the people now, a lot of the talk has been on Ray Gun and the appropriation, rather than like, Matt, did you see like Phil Wizard do amazing, or like, or you know, or Ami from Japan and won the gold for women's and stuff. Instead of like celebrating the people who did like really well, or like or focusing on the ones that did really good, all the talk was like this is the memes, you know, and like. And I'm sorry, but a lot of the times, like in ukulele, like a lot of people's, like, you know, a lot of people get into ukulele, but like a lot of it is the entrance is like through memes and stuff. A lot of people will find like back in my day, you know, a lot of people found ukulele from like that Kazuki Lele like final countdown thing, which I'm like, this is like not the best representation for ukulele. And you know, and at that time in YouTube, like we were trying to, you know, like I was saying, a lot of like, you know, like singer songwriters and stuff, and a lot of like, you know, like ukulele players like myself, like Jake was, you know, did that like ukulele disco video, you know, at Central Park, and we were trying to like show like YouTube like or the world like, hey, this ukulele thing is pretty cool, you know. And then that happens. It's kind of like that same thing, and I feel like it's somewhat similar where like, that's, you know, instead of like these. Like it should be like the headlines should be talking about Phil Wizard. Headlines should be talking about Ami from Japan. But like instead, it's like, how the heck did this? You know,
I kind of felt the same way about even though Kyle said it, and it's like I totally get why Kyle said it, right? About the guy who shot, like who was doing the pistol competition.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, that's the joke, but like as somebody who does Olympic style archery. Like, I know how hard it is to do that. And the person who won gold and was wearing everything, it's just like a preference for the equipment that you have. And whatever works best for you. And then people were like putting her down and saying like, oh, she had to use all of that to win gold. It's like that same guy who shot, like he could have used it too. It's just like preference for what you want to use and not use.
Well, if Pocahontas taught me anything, Kahai, is to shoot with both eyes open. You ever watch that movie?
Shoot, you gotta. No, in general, you do shoot with both eyes open.
That's what John Smith said to that one little boy, like that shot that did the first shot, basically in that movie. Spoilers for the people who haven't seen Pocahontas yet in like 30, 40 years or something. No, 30 years. Pocahontas in the 90s. Yeah. But that's what I was thinking the whole time. And it was just like, oh, he's just doing the John Smith thing where he's just like using both eyes open to shoot. And, you know, like, and instead of like trying to, so I guess I'm not a shooter, but like there is like an explanation for that, right? Like instead of like trying to, hone in on like on the target itself, like making everything clear so that you know like you hit the target better or something, you know.
It's different styles of shooting and what you just whatever feels comfortable to you. And there's different ways to do like all of it, and it's just for Olympic archery, when you get into the nitty-gritty, like Korea is very competitive at in Olympic archery. The thing, I'm not saying it as I'm using the word because that is the actual category. It's called that. But Korea is very competitive because they have a certain style. But America also has a certain style, and all these other countries. So it's just not one is better over the other. And
I watched that one that you were referencing. Like it was kind of, it's like shoot, and then like the, you know, like the arrow leaving would make her hair go. I'm like, that is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I guess I'm into archery now, Kai.
that is why I was telling you, I guess.
No, it wasn't. It was some other girl. I was like, oh, hey. Okay. I like archery.
Sure.
But yeah, Jim, I know you gotta explain it better, bud. Well, who else is from Australia? Kahai?
Yeah, and Chris said you got to watch the Red Bull competitions, and it's like, yeah, I kind of feel like for all of these things, there are like different competitions to show other athletes too, because even skating too, right? Like people are saying like, oh, there's really good street skaters who don't perform at the big games.
Yeah,
I felt like Regan doing her breakdancing was like me doing my skateboarding. Like when me trying to skateboard other than for transportation. That's how terrible I was at skateboarding. But I didn't go into any competitions, Kahai. I had people tell me I was terrible. I think that's that's what happens when you aren't very honest with your friends.
Yeah, we'll just see. What happens.
All right, so that about does it for our podcast. We talked a little bit about ukulele, right? Yeah, Kai, is there any answering five that we can knock out in like a couple minutes?
I don't think I saw any. Yeah.
Okay. So if there isn't any, then we're not gonna force it. Yeah. Just let it happen. Okay. If it happens, it happens. If people want to ask a question in five, answer in five, they'll ask it. Right, but check out those songs. I mean, and check out all the musicians and the bands that I referenced in this episode, because it really you get a good idea of who I am as a musician, why I picked the songs for Ukulele Underground, because a lot of it kind of follows that that same criteria basically of music, and I love what I do. And I love sharing with you folks music that I enjoy, and hoping that you guys enjoy it as well. Okay, if you guys want to learn how to play ukulele, check out ukuleleunderground.com. That's where you can find all these lessons that we're talking about. If you sign up for UU Plus, not only can you watch all those, you get tons of exclusive contents that you can have access to improve your ukulele and take it to the next level. Okay, so you can also represent the Ukulele Underground if you're like, hey, I just like watching, but you know what I mean, like, is there any way I can that I can support you guys without doing a monthly commitment? Yeah, you can do a one-time commitment by getting getting a shirt or getting some kind of Ukulele Underground thing at shop.ukuleleunderground.com, and tell your friends, spread the word about Ukulele Underground. Tell them that this is the one-stop shop for everything that's ukulele. You want to talk ukulele, you want to learn ukulele, you want to represent ukulele, everything is over at ukuleleunderground.com. You can even buy ukuleles there, right, Kahai?
Yep. Yeah. Some.
There's some mix there. So if everything ukulele you can find over at Ukulele. You want to learn how to build ukuleles, forum.ukuleleunderground.com is where you would go. You want to make some ukulele friends, you want to know where the cool events are happening, forum.ukuleleunderground.com. Everything is at Ukulele Underground. If you didn't know all these things, if you're just like, I didn't know, you could find a calendar of events throughout the year for ukulele, or I didn't know I can go to the Luthier's Lounge and learn how to do ukulele. Nice. I like that there's that big ukulele site ad. Love it. Love that our friends are advertising with Ukulele Underground. So yeah, there's tons of stuff that you can do over at Ukulele Underground. It's not just about watching videos and learning how to play ukulele. You can make some ukulele friends. You can talk ukulele, and some people don't even talk ukulele, like our guests a month ago or a few weeks ago. Yeah, they although Damien plays ukulele, Gary said he hasn't touched his ukulele in a while, but he's frequent at Ukulele Underground, and he still enjoys it.
He sent us a message afterwards, and he said, I picked it up, guys. So
nice. See, there you go. But have a great one, everyone. Enjoy your week. Next week, we don't know what's gonna happen. So Aaron and I will, we'll be heading over to Korea, and we're gonna be doing a few shows there alongside Honoka and a bunch of other amazing artists as well. I think I saw Jazoom ukulele from Japan. I think Jazoom's gonna be a part of it, and I haven't seen him since he put me in a headlock in Thailand. So he's like a wrestler. He's like a legit wrestler in Japan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've always wanted to be a headlock by an actual wrestler. I'm like, okay, It's like, and there's a picture.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
picture of us of him headlocking me. But I can't wait. I haven't seen Jazum in forever, so I'm excited. And of course, Honoka, the great friend of mine. We traveled a bunch of places together, including like Czech Republic. So can't wait to jam some songs with her. And Honoka, you're going up there by yourself. I can always be your Azita if you need, somebody to play the other parts, right? To wear a nice dress and jam alongside you. You got an Azita and Aldrine Guerrero, okay? Anytime.
Can't tell the difference.
Yeah, you can't even tell the difference.
So
you can't even, I'll learn all the moves and everything. I'll learn not just the notes on my ukulele, but all the dance moves. And we got like pose together like back to back, and like do like Hawaii 5-0 and Mizzaloo together. Yeah, I got you, girl. All right. So if you're from South Korea, check out where would they go, Aaron?
Aldrine.com.
Aldrine.com. We have
a
we
tour
have links
section.
there. Okay.
There's some information there.
It's to our tour, South Korean tour. And we're going to be gone for a week. We'll be home. But before then, if you are a member of Craig and Sarah's Ukulele Club of Hawaii, we're going to be there this Saturday. So come down to Ukulele Club of Hawaii, or if you participate online, that's awesome too. Aaron and I are going to be there participating in this month's Ukulele Club of Hawaii. We're gonna learn some songs. We're gonna have some fun. That's all. And we're gonna lead a jam. We put up some songs that we play for our Ukulele Academy here on Kauai. So it's gonna be a lot of fun as well. Hey, any other things?
I guess so. Next week we're not really sure about the podcast or the jam. Maybe not.
Let you know.
But then for sure next week and the following week we won't be having live coaching, right?
Yes, no live coaching next week and the following week. Yeah, and the following week because we come home too late on a Monday, so that's that's out of the picture. And next month we have some tour dates as well for you guys to check out. Check out Aldrine.com if you want to know about like the tour dates. One is the LA Uke Fest and the other one is the Seattle Live Aloha Festival. Okay, so we'll see you guys next time. Have a great one. Aloha, everyone. Bye.
New solo comes out.
New solo comes out Thursday.
Okay, bye.
Bye.